Oh, okay. You know what? We're doing this. I'm finishing this. You guys keep asking for it. So I'm going to finish Power Rangers Hyperforce recap. Let's do it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Okay, here we go. Episode 13 of Power Rangers Hyperforce. Hyperforce. Gonna recap again. Finish the series. I can't see Hyperforce. Okay. Previously on Power Rangers Hyperforce. After they save Marv, Joe, Marv's brother, and also the Silver Time Force Ranger, leaves and tells them to not follow him. Marv feels upset from being captured by Premator and Scorpina, but now he's back at the Hyperforce shift, ready to go, ready for action. That's like a quick recap of what happened, and this is okay. This is cool. Episode 13 is like a clip show. They summarize like the things that happened in previous episodes. So this is fine. This is fine. Episode 13 is a great way to get back into Hyperforce. All right, we start off with Eddie and Jack getting character development this episode. Eddie has things on his mind and he wants to get it off his chest, so he talks with Jack. The Alliance is always ahead of them, and that brings Eddie down because he feels like he has this like so much Power Ranger knowledge, but he can't use it to use. Jack knows what Eddie feels throughout the whole like series from episode 1 to episode 12. All they've been doing is reacting and adapting to the situation, but they know that sticking together and being Rangers together is the key to success. You know, together they are more. You see what I did there? But the thing is, they still don't know what the Alliance is. Could they possibly be good but doing like evil actions? Like, what is the goal for the Alliance? Eddie gets inspired by Jack's words, and you know, they're cops now. They are the law. They can do this. So we get a little bit more backstory on Jack. You know, what made him the way he is now. We find out that Jack's parents didn't make it through the mutant wars that happened in the early 3000s. If you know, you know. When his parents were destroyed, it's a kid show. It's Power Rangers. You can't say certain words that kill. So when his parents were destroyed, that sounds funny. That's not like, it's messed up, but it sounds funny because I have to use destroy and I can't use kill. But anyways, when his parents were gone, he was left alone with his grandparents, and that's when he made his dog companion that we learned from previous episodes. You know, he made Forge. Forge is a robotic dog that his grandfather helped build. We find out that his grandparents were not a fan of Jack becoming a cop and joining the academy. You know, there was always a chance of him risking his life. Jack understood that the safety of others is what's more important, and that's why Jack did what he had to do and joined the cadets of Time Force and eventually become the Yellow Ranger. Then Eddie opens up and tells Jack about his family and where he comes from. Eddie comes from a rich family that expects him to carry the Banks name. You know, his name is Eddie Banks, so the Banks legacy, they want him to carry that on. Eddie is just like, am I really worthy of becoming a Power Ranger if this is my legacy, if this is my name? But Jack tells him like, no, you're more than that. There's a reason why you became a Ranger. It's time for you to be the change in your family. That's why you are the Blue Hyperforce Power Ranger. And Eddie is inspired by that. You know what? This is my new legacy. This is me, not my family. This is me. So Chloe is in the ship walking around looking for Vesper. Vesper, Sally couldn't be in this episode because her actress was busy. She was absent from this episode, so she was like asleep throughout the whole episode. But Chloe's burrito maker, the Insta Kitchen 3000, if I remember the name correctly, I did not write that down, but I'm sure that's what it's called. It's broken and she needs Vesper because we know Vesper is an android and she's good with technology. And Chloe is tired of eating kale and all she wants is a nice, tasty Mexican burrito. I don't know why I did the accent there. I'm Mexican. I'm allowed to say that, right? Anyways, back to the fun. Now we go to Marvin. Marvin is alone in a white room, and like the previous episode, he is a prisoner once again. Premator is back, and Marvin summoned his claws and he tries to fight. Marvin has been training and trying to become a better ranger. He feels this doubt inside him that he's not a good leader, and that he feels like when he was captured and saved by his brother, he needed an outside source to help him. To him, that didn't feel very ranger like. So he's been training over 36 times trying to fight Premator, trying not to hold back his power. With every attack, Marvin hesitates because Premator can transform. He transforms to his brother, and when he sees his brother, he hesitates and can't attack. Chloe walks in on Marvin, and Marv turns off the training simulation. Marv is just feeling weak. Marvin can't do anything. He's worthless, doubtful of his powers. Is he really worthy of being, a Red Ranger? Marv wants to know how Chloe feels. Since Joe is alive and well, does that mean Chloe's parents are also alive and well? Possibly, maybe, who knows? But then they get into like the real issue of why they're doing what they're doing. They wonder if Time Force is keeping secrets from them. How are they Power Rangers but don't know much about the mission they're on? Joe said not to follow them, but what if they did? What if they followed Joe? Could that possibly lead to Chloe's parents? Because all they know is that Joe and Chloe's parents were missing in action. If Joe is still alive, he's not missing anymore, so therefore maybe Chloe's parents are with him. What if they're on the same mission together? They come up with theories on what's going on. At this point, everyone is doubting themselves if they're really worthy of being a Power Ranger. Chloe feels like she wasn't rightfully chosen to be the Pink Ranger. If we go back to the first episode, she even said herself, during that attack, Jack caught me stealing some stuff, like I'm a thief. In the end of the day, I'm a thief. Like, I don't know if that's good for being a Power Ranger, but if you remember, there was some people started off as criminals or bad, but eventually when they got the powers, they learned to use their skills responsible in a new light. So I think Chloe doesn't know it yet. She's still doubting herself. So while Marvin and Chloe are talking, Alpha comes in and tells them like, hey Chloe, is it cool if I can learn how to make burritos with you? And Chloe becomes like, what? Yes, of course. Alpha says like the recipes were lost, so we gotta make burritos from scratch, like actual people cooking. We had to cook for ourselves. So while Alpha and Chloe talk about making burritos, Marvin gets up and says, you know what, let's see what Jack is doing, and maybe I can talk to Jack and hopefully he can help me out with what I'm feeling. So Marvin leaves the room. So while they were both making burritos, Chloe asks Alpha if she can send out a message to Jen Scott and tell Jen Scott the situation they're in, that they're feeling doubt, that they don't know if they're right for the team. So Alpha sends a message and sends it off to Jen, to the future. Now we go to the boys. So Marvin meets up with Jack and Eddie, and he talks to them like, let's make some theories on why things are happening the way they are. Marvin wants to understand why Premator and Scorpina were chosen, why they were chosen to be part of the Alliance team. Right before they were about to break down their theories and their thoughts, Chloe walks in with burritos, and she's loud and like, look, I brought burritos for everyone. But the thing is, this is a role-playing game, and she didn't roll high enough, so therefore the burritos that she thought she brought were not the burritos she brought. Did that make sense? So the burritos became burritos of salt and water. I'm Mexican, and sometimes when I wanted a snack, my mom would go to the kitchen and make tacos of salt. She'll heat up a tortilla, put salt, and that's it. Boom, that's a snack. And you know what? Burritos of salt sounds like the same thing to me. I want to say that those be slapping, those be bussin', as the kids would say it these days. They continue speaking about their theories and why Scorpina and Premator were chosen for time travel. These two had dangerous abilities, and they do. Premator is able to change to whoever he wants to, and he can disguise himself as whoever. So time with that and time travel is already dangerous. And Scorpina had the power of seduction. If you remember correctly from previous episodes, she seduced Eddie, and Eddie fell into like a little charm. So that's also dangerous, especially when time travel is involved. But then they go back to the Alliance. Who can they trust? Marvin wants to know which Time Force officers are Time Force and which ones are the Alliance. Marvin stops and thinks, and could Joe be part of the Alliance? Like, has Time Force been compromised this whole time? How long has the Alliance been in Time Force? They start remembering the attack from the first episode. They remember the people being part of the Alliance. They remember the mysterious figure that they saw or that they shot. They were wondering if he was acting alone during the attack. They were also wondering when Scorpina joined the team. They stopped and thought about, like, were the people brainwashed or they chose to be part of the Alliance? And when you go back to it, I think it was still kind of figuring out the story of HyperForce. So the people were part of the Alliance. They chose to be part of the attack. They weren't brainwashed. Then Eddie becomes big brain and was like, what if this is a theory here? What if the Alliance wants Zordon? Because when he died in Power Rangers in Space, and Andros killed Zordon, there was like a big blast of energy and turned all the villains good. So Eddie wonders, like, if he stays alive, you know, villains will continue to be villains, you know. So what if the Alliance wants to save Zordon from dying? So then Marvin brings up a theory himself about Gosei from Power Rangers Megaforce. He brings up that Zordon gave powers to Gosei to share to another team. And then he starts to think, like, what if they want to stop that from happening? So therefore, the Megaforce Rangers would cease to exist. Eddie remembers something, or does he? He doesn't, because he didn't roll high enough. So therefore, he doesn't remember what he was gonna say, because this is an RPG, like Dungeons and Dragons. But they think about it, like, what if they capture Zordon at a certain time? A domino effect will happen, and that Rangers would cease to exist. Eddie brings up Camelot from episode 11, when they went back in time to, you know, ancient royal times. They saw these knights, and when they transformed, it was kind of similar to their Power Rangers power, but it was different. So maybe they're connected in that way too. But then they stop to think, like, if they have Zordon's power and Zordon's, like, knowledge, would the Alliance be able to make their own Power Rangers? That sounds a little psycho. They want to know why the Alliance is doing what they're doing. They remember again the Alliance attacking from the first episode, and they want to know why he was there, why they were there. So then they ask Alpha if there was anything on the ship or on the base, and it turns out that, you know, the ship that they have is different from the other ships. Like, this ship is the most advanced ship for Time Force, that they were able to use the hyperstream to time travel. For Time Force, the Time Force ships are able to time travel during certain events in time, while the hyperstream can go anywhere in time. And I think that's why the Alliance was there, to get that hyperstream ship, but they didn't know which one it was, because it was, like, hidden from the other ships, because this was like a prototype. So while they're talking about their theories, Alpha goes, aye, there's a change in time. And they're like, okay, tell us more. What's going on? There's a change in time in 2005 in a place called Briarwood. But before they jumped into action, Jack tells Alpha to not send us during the portal opening, but to send them a day before, so that way they can get adjusted to the time change and get to know the land, you know, the people, may perhaps get to know the Rangers. So they land in Briarwood with new disguises from 2000. What a time. I don't remember it. I wore a uniform at school. I don't think I have style. So the HyperForce Rangers have 24 hours to explore Briarwood and get to know the people. So they decide to go to the candy shop. Damn it, Chloe. So they go into the candy shop and they ask about the area, like, who's around town, what have they seen, has anything weird been going on in town? And the cashier from the candy shop tells them that, yeah, there's nothing weird going on in town. You know, there's a couple of woods that people go to and they end up missing. You know, that's about it. You know, our town isn't really special. They're like, oh, okay, that's fine. And then all of a sudden they hear fire trucks rushing down the street. So they go investigate. Could be a monster, could be the Rangers, who knows? So they go check it out, and it's an apartment building on fire. Nothing big, nothing special. It's just a normal thing that happens in, like, every town. But the thing is, this fire is going on and there's people still inside the building. So they rush into action, as they do, because they are Rangers. So Jack saves a little girl on the first floor, then Marvin saves a guy and his dog in the second floor. Then the third floor, Eddie rescues an old lady. He wraps her around in, like, carpet, and while he's carrying her down the stairs, there's a big, like, wall of fire, and Eddie tells her, like, hey, lady, I'm gonna need you to close your eyes. And she's like, okay, like, and he's like, once you open your eyes, you're gonna be safe and sound outside of the fire. So she closes her eyes, and when she closes her eyes, he morphs into action.
HyperForce! Blue! Ready! Power up!
So when he's morphed, he uses his oceanic powers to put down the fire. So when Eddie goes down the stairs, he sees the opening and he rolls the old lady out to safety. He then goes to the top floor, the fourth floor, and meets up with Chloe. Chloe's having trouble. She can't see, she can't breathe. You know, it's horrible surrounding of fire and smoke. Then Eddie tells her like, hey, just morph and everything will be okay. So then Chloe morphs.
HyperForce! Hit! Ready! Power up!
Then Eddie tells her to use her wind powers to push out the smoke out the window so it's easier to breathe. That they find an old lady and her baby trapped in the closet. While they were trying to rescue her, Eddie takes damage. You know, he gets back on his feet. He clears the way for Chloe. Chloe carries the baby and the mom. They save everyone and a portal opens. They're a little confused because they thought they had 24 hours to explore the city, but this portal opened sooner than later. Instead of questioning it, they go to the source. They go to the portal, and in that portal, they are in a forest, and the atmosphere is completely different. There's a portal in front of them, and the first thing Chloe does is run inside. Chloe runs into the portal and she's inside this giant white room with pillars that are tall as the sky. And inside the room there is the letter M, and that letter M looks kind of mystical. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Mystic. So when Chloe walks in, she hears a voice. So when she hears the voice, Marvin and Jack decide to morph because they don't know what that voice is. It could be something dangerous. They might have to fight their way out of this. So they morph into action.
HyperForce! Yellow! Ready! Power up!
So when they walk in to this white room, a giant lady stands before them. Who is this person? I'm glad you asked. She is the Mystic Mother, and she knows who they are. She knows that they are the HyperForce Ranger. With that, they start asking questions. They ask about Zordon. They want to know more information about the events that happened in space, why Andros did what he did. And she tells them, like, you know, when Zordon died, it unleashed a lot of good into the world. The evil witch of Rita Repulsa, Lord Zed, they all became good. They asked, like, you know, what happened to Rita Repulsa? Like, where did she go? And then she goes, I'm Rita Repulsa. Me, this Mystic Mother, is I, Rita Repulsa. So that was like a funny thing because, you know, the lore of Power Rangers. The Mystic Mother decides to talk to them individually, like into their own pocket dimension, to talk to them one-on-one. And with that, they reveal their issues that they have. They learn how to get past it. Chloe doesn't know, like, when the time comes, if she's able to choose her parents or the Ranger team. She has doubt, like, what's more important to her family or the Ranger team. Like, as much as she loves her Ranger teams, her parents are her parents and she wants to be with them. What if they're alive? Would she ditch the Rangers to save her parents? Eddie's issues is about his doubt, the way his family is. Is he doing a bad thing, betraying his family and becoming his own legacy? His Ranger team, he doesn't know if they'll love him after doing this, but at the end of the day, you know, his Ranger team are the ones that love Eddie. So Eddie accepts the fact that if they don't love him for who he is, then he can always turn on his Ranger family to be loved. Jack's fear is that he's too scared, that he's too much with justice. He is a cop after all, and he won't know if it's sometimes the right call. So the Mystic Mother tells him, like, your justice doesn't come from the law, it comes from you. You know the right thing to do. You are the one who makes the choices of justice. So we finally get to Marvin, and Marvin tries to fight, you know, doesn't want to talk and fights back, but she overpowers him and shows Marvin's fear. In his fear, he finds out that he's afraid of people walking away from him. They see that he's not worthy of being a leader, and with that, they just ditch him and leave him. The Mystic Mother tells him, all you want to do is the right thing. The person to help you with that is your fellow Yellow Ranger, Jack. Jack can help you with justice. He can tell you what the right thing to do. He can tell you the right from the wrong. So believe in your partner. So then the Mystic Mother tells them to summon their weapons, and they fuse together to create HyperVortex Cannon, if I remember the name correctly. It's been a while, I'm sorry. The weapons fuse together in front of them, and She tells him that there's nothing holding you back except yourself. Marv sees nothing. Chloe sees her parents. Eddie sees Bianca, the girl that, what he was forced to have a relationship with. Jack sees the mutants coming to attack. Marvin sees himself. And the Mystic Mother tells them that don't let your fears get in the way of doing the right thing. So they shoot their fears together, and then the Mystic Mother sends them away back to their ship. They tell Alpha what happened and that the Alliance needs to be stopped. This is where they get motivated to now get back into action. No more fear, no more crying. We'll see about that. This is basically the halfway point, so we'll see where it goes. Marvin opens up and tells the team that he's going to be a better leader, that the team will always come first before his problems. So then Alpha scans and the anomaly that they detected is no longer there. Chloe gets a reply back from Jen Scott, or should I say Abigail. You remember her? You remember Abigail, the one from the first episode who was like, I can't do anything, but then all of a sudden she becomes like a top tier cadet. Abigail replies to Chloe's message. All that confidential information that Time Force was keeping away from HyperForce is no longer there. Abigail's like, all right, let me get you the good, the bad, the ugly. All right, now you're HyperForce. HyperForce, you get to know what we know. So here's the deal. Joe is alive. He's great. He's awesome. He's a beautiful man. But the thing is, he's not with us. His mission is no longer his mission. Your new mission, HyperForce Rangers, is to retrieve Joe from the year 2025 because he's trapped there. Once you retrieve him, his new mission is to join the HyperForce team. So with that, Alpha detects that Joe isn't part of the Alliance. Joe is part of Time Force. So they need to get him in the year 2025, and that's where the episode ends. So with that, I leave you with you. Thank you for watching HyperForce Recap, episode 13. It's been a while, but you know what? I'm glad I'm doing this again. Watching HyperForce is actually pretty enjoyable. I will finish this series finally. I'll see you in the next episode of Power Rangers HyperForce. Stay blessed, stay home, stay safe. Have a great day or night or wherever you are. I did that in reverse. But it's okay. You know why? Because HyperForce is back. Let's go. HyperForce!